Hello, my name is Gabrielle Bryan Quamina. I'm the Assistant Digital Curator for the Science Museum Group, and today I'm going to talk to you all about death. Today we're going to be looking at some Memento Mori in our collection. A Memento Mori is an object that reminds you of the inevitability of your own death, and it comes from the Latin phrase that directly translates to "remember you will die." Death has been fascinating to humans since pretty much the dawn of time. It's arguably one of the things that makes us human, an awareness of our own mortality. So cultures have always created objects that remind us of this fact. These objects represent the different ways that we respond to, understand, and have represented death throughout history. They range from ancient Rome all the way through to the Victorian era. So let's have a look at our first object. What I'm holding in my hand now is a 2,000-year-old skeleton. Obviously it's not a real one, it's made of bronze, and it was given to people at parties as a little party favour. This dates back all the way to ancient Rome to about 500 BC. It's called a lava convivalis, so that literally translates to banquet ghost, and it would remind people at parties to have fun while they can because you could be dead tomorrow. The practice has been sort of recorded in a lot of different books. For example, Petronius's Satyricon, there's a character called Trimalchio, he's absolutely awful, and he gives this out to his guests in the party, sort of reciting a poem telling them to drink, eat, and be happy because tomorrow hell will drag you off. We have a couple of these in the collection, but this is the only one that has articulated joints, which is quite cool because it means that people at the party could make him dance. You can see that you can move his elbows and you can also move his legs. Memento Mori was quite a common practice in ancient Rome. It was something that a lot of different philosophers talked about, like Socrates and Epicurus. Everyone was sort of aware of their own mortality, and it was sort of thought that the impermanence of life made it valuable. And in battles, after a triumphant battle, the general would be parading through the streets, celebrating the victory, but to his side, he would have an aide with him, and that aide would be whispering in his ear, "Memento Mori, remember you will die." Up next, we have these two beautiful copies of Roman silver cups. So the originals are in the Louvre collection, and they were unearthed in the late 19th century, but they date back to around the time that Mount Vesuvius erupted in 79 AD. My favourite of the figures are these two individuals here. We have a representation of the philosopher Zeno of Citium, and you can see that that's what the engraving says here. And he's sort of wagging his finger and telling off a very disinterested Epicurus who is reaching for a slice of cake on the table and does not seem to be listening to him. These philosophers are from quite different schools of thought. Zeno of Citium was from the school of Stoicism, which said that life on earth is finite, so we should all live virtuously and follow the cardinal virtues. Whereas Epicurus was from a different school of thought. He believed that we should grab the pleasures of life while we can, that life was too short and it should be enjoyed while we can still live it. Even though the philosophers featured had slightly different thoughts about how we should live, they both ultimately thought a lot about death and thought that that should be something that we were all conscious of. So moving out of ancient Rome and into the medieval era, we've got these three objects here that are part of a set of 37, and they all represent the Danse Macabre. The Danse Macabre, also known as the Dance of Death, is a medieval allegory on the universality of death. It features figures from all walks of life accompanied with a skeleton or a decaying body that represents death. The Dance of Death features people from all ranks of society to sort of show that it doesn't matter how wealthy you are or what class you come from, death sort of comes for us all. It's very indiscriminate in that way. So in the examples that we have here, we have a common woman and a common man, but other figures that would have been in this set include a canon and a noblewoman, a bishop. This middle figure features different skeletons and they're playing music. Although music and dancing are normally associated with festivities, here it's a dance that is anything but merry. These specific examples would have been made in the 1700s, but the engravings that they're based on were made in the 1400s, and they were created by Hans Holbein the Younger. In this figure here, we can see that the skeleton of death is quite literally taking this man by the hand, and the man almost is looking off in the other direction. So there's a little bit of avoidance of death here, and that can also be seen in this counterpart. The woman is facing away while death is almost dragging her. And both of these examples have a poem. The script is in German, so this is just a poem that's a back and forth between the living person and death, sort of arguing about the process. These differ from the Roman objects that we saw before because those are really focused on enjoying life and making the most of it before you die, whereas these are almost a scare tactic and a call to piety. They're reminding people of their death so that they will lead holy lives. With these next two objects, we're going into more of the early modern period, the 16th and the 17th century, and we have examples of mourning jewellery. So this is a practice that started around the 1600s, and it's where people would take parts of ordinary people, like their hair and their teeth, and they would make it into jewellery. So the first example that we have here is this lovely little brooch, and you can see that it has classic Memento Mori symbolism, so it features a skeleton holding a little hourglass, so that's a symbol of death and also of time on earth running out. And if we turn to the back of this, you'll be able to see that it's actually engraved, so it's engraved with the initial of the person who died, and their initials are WH, and it's engraved with their date of death as well, which is 1689. And you've got these two little loops here, and that's where a pin or a ribbon would have been put through so that it could be attached to a person's hair or their belt or their lapel. The background in this brooch is actually hair. You can see that it's blonde hair that's been woven into a sort of plaited texture. And hair became a really important part of mourning culture. It was a part of the person that sort of endured after death. It didn't decay in the same way that tissue did, and you could cut it and use it and it would last for quite a while. So it was a way for people to carry around a physical part of the person that died with them. It wasn't just brooches, people would also use hair in rings. So this one, you have the hair behind the glass and it's in a circular weave. So this ring would have been made for the wife or daughter of the person whose name is on the back, Dr. Lettsom, and you can see that it has when he died, November 1815, and the age he was when he died, which is 71. The biggest object that we're going to be looking at today is this wax vanitas from the 18th century. Vanitas are a type of artwork that represent the futility of wealth and earthly possessions in the face of death. So you can see here at the base we have a little inscription and it says vanitas vanitatum e omnia vanitas, and that means vanity of vanity, all is vanity. And this is the old definition. So up until the 14th century, the word vanity meant emptiness or futility. So it was just reminding the viewer that everything that we have on earth won't be able to be taken with us when we die, so nothing really matters. As you can see, it's a split figure. So we've got the figure on this side, which is the living side, and then we've got the figure of death on this side. We've got classical Memento Mori imagery. You can see that there's loads of insects on it, which speaks to the decay that's going on here. We've got a little skeleton hand to juxtapose the living side. And then on the living side, we sort of have symbols of wealth and extravagance, and also symbols that represent life. So we have flowers, which are seen in bloom, but it speaks to how temporary everything is, because flowers will one day rot as well. As well as having symbols of life and death, we also have symbols that speak to rebirth. So we have a salamander. Now these are amphibians that can withstand fire, so they've become symbols that represent conquering death. I think this object is a really interesting one because it is quite ghastly. It goes into the really grisly parts of death. We see sort of the skeletonized half that has all of the insects, and it is quite gross to look at, especially in comparison with this side, which is quite lovely really, with the curls and the hair. So we have the beauty of life juxtaposed with the ugliness of death. This object sends a slightly different message to our other ones. We've seen the Roman objects that speak to enjoying life while we can. We've seen the medieval ones, which are a call to piety, but this one's really reflecting on the futility of the acquisition of wealth and knowledge and all things worldly, because even if you have beautiful things, you're still going to die. Thank you for watching the video. We hope you enjoyed it. Make sure to like and subscribe below.